gonna be you.
Welcome back to Giggles and Gains, and I wanted to do a pre-comp update and then I wanted to do a post-comp update. So the post-comp update is probably, well, I want to say bittersweet, but I'm trying to think of the sweet. The sweet afterwards was going for food and drinks. But yeah, so I also did a Q&A on my Instagram today and there was so many questions. So what I'll do is I'm going to talk through a little bit about the last couple of days of the Gut Cut. I'm going to talk through the morning of comp, the actual competition, what happened, my thoughts, feelings, emotions. Hopefully I don't cry. That was at the beginning of the week. And also kind of like lessons, and then I'll go through and answer some of the questions that you guys sent through on Insta. But first off, I just want to say an absolutely massive thank you to everyone. Like, so many people messaged me on the day, after the day, and it's just so overwhelming and inspiring to know that I have an influence on so many people, but also that so many people care. Like, it really does take me away sometimes, and yeah, I just want to say thank you. So following on from the comp, we finished off the Gut Cut on Friday evening. I had my last meal at around 7:30 and I weighed in on a Saturday morning and I was 69.2. And then I had a coffee, went for a walk, and I was still around 69.2. I then took the scales into the service station because I wanted to be under 69 before I started to eat anything. So I took the scales into the service station and I was just under again. So the kind of rule of thumb is if you're under, you kind of get on the scales what you're going to eat. So I knew that if I had a couple of squares of dark chocolate, I would have been in. I got to the venue, I snuck upstairs, jumped on the scales, and I was 68.6, so I was well underweight. So at that point I had a couple of energy gels and some dark chocolate. The most important thing was to kind of be replenishing my carb stores because I needed the carbs for the energy, so that was the first priority. I weighed in, I rehydrated, so I had a Lucozade, 2 electrolyte tablets within the Lucozade to then rehydrate. It's a little bit of a difficult battle when you're making weight and you're in a suit, because if you drink loads and loads and loads while you're in a squat suit, you ain't getting out of that squat suit for the next couple of hours. So the most important thing is kind of actually like focusing on rehydrating, but then not needing to go to the toilet. So that's kind of what I did. I then ate a bagel and some honey. So quick kind of carbs, getting those in there, energy for the competition. So how did I feel? I felt the best physically and mentally I have felt at a competition for so long. So I'm not new to competing. Like, I've competed in 12 powerlifting comps. Prior to that, of bodybuilding. Prior to that, I competed horses. So competing for me is quite a normal thing. But like, I just feel good. Like, I do go into competitions now. I'm not riddled with nerves. I'm not absolutely terrified. I just feel good. I feel comfortable. I know that this is my time. Like, I've worked hard to get to this moment. This is the opportunity where I showcase all of my hard work. So where did it all go wrong? I haven't actually got the answer for that. So I'll talk you through the day and then I'll give you my reflection. So I was in the warm-up area. My squats were flying. Like, they were at depth, they felt good, they were absolutely bomber. I got onto the platform and I thought I walked my first squat out a little bit narrow. I clipped the rack as well. I found that I couldn't hinge or get into the suit. Like, when I brace, I kind of, I want to show, can I show? So when I brace, I kind of like here, and then I'll hinge backwards and then begin my descent by pushing my knees outwards. So I found that I couldn't get back into my suit for whatever reason. And I ended up getting the shakes. I've called them the twerks. I got the shakes. I shook the whole way down and I fought so hard to get that squat down. I then finished the squat, was like, definitely that's not going to be in. And it wasn't. And then we were around the back and I was already like, well, what did I do wrong? Like, trying to analyze it. And John was like, well, I think you just walked out a little bit too narrow from what I saw. We actually watched the video back and I wasn't narrow. I wasn't narrow at all. so I still don't have the explanation as to why I got the twerks. Anyway, around the back, the squat got overturned. No idea why, but how bloody lucky was I? Like, what a saving grace that was, because without that squat being in, I would have bombed. And I got told off for mentioning bombing on my last podcast. So that was the first squat. The second squat, I got the shakes again, couldn't control them, and got a little bit of the way down, had to come back up and had to ask the spotters to help me. And then the third one, I got the shakes again and couldn't control them. I got down as far as I could, and I finished, and I was like on the bar, and the lady ref in front of me, and I was like, did I get it in? And she was like, no. And I was like, oh, I was gutted. I was so gutted. So I finished squats. I was really frustrated. I can understand and I can process and I can park something when I understand it, but I did not understand it. Like John said, potentially it could have been the gut cut. And I'm like, yeah, it could have been, but then why did my warm-up squats feel good? And then I said to Derek a couple of days later, I was like, could I have been really nervous? And he was like, you didn't come across as nervous. I didn't feel nervous. So it's kind of one of those things I've just had to park and then move forward. Anyway, so moving on to bench. Bench felt really, really good. Got my first lift, moved on to do my second lift. I'm feeling my emotional resilience isn't as good as what I wanted it to be. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons I would take away from the competition. And I'll come on to that later. But my second bench, and before I say this, like, I am incredibly grateful to like British Powerlifting, who a lot of the sport is based on volunteers. Like, without those volunteers, we wouldn't be able to do it. My handout wasn't the best, but I recognise that is just part and parcel of having a handout. Like, we're all going to be really specific to how we want the bar handed out to us. And sometimes it's okay, sometimes it's not. And that's not even necessarily the person who handed out to me's fault. He listened to my instructions. It wasn't to how I liked it. We have 3 goes at it. That's it. Like, it was what it was. But I was kind of in the wrong position for starting, and I lost control of the bar on the way down. So I'm the only person to blame for that. So I missed my second. I got my third. I actually cried in the corridor after my second. I was like, I just can't believe how bad this day's going. And John was like, I know. I was like, great. But yeah, like it was really overwhelming at that point, because I was just like, this just isn't going to plan. Like, why is this not going to plan? Like, the prep was really good. The warm-ups were really good. I feel really good. It's just not going to plan. Anyway, let me move on and discuss deadlifts. So obviously before with deadlifts, I was feeling, we haven't peaked them. So I opened on 150, got 160. John said to me, how did it feel? And I was like, it feels like it felt in training. It felt heavy. I feel quite emotionally drained. And he said, what do you want to do? And I said, I'm not bothered. I said, like, I know I'm not going to PB. I know I'm not going to total PB. I said, I just want to get back into training next week and have another crack. So we decided not to go for my third lift, conserve energy, which I think I've made that decision a couple of times on my deadlift. And I always feel really grateful, because if I'd have gone out and failed a deadlift, I would have felt really frustrated and probably even more like damaged from that. But yeah, that was the competition. I was sub 15 kilos off a total PB underneath. Reflecting on it now, it is what it is. Like, shit happens, life goes on. Like, it's only powerlifting. And hopefully I can take some things away from it and eliminate a couple of those things. So when I go to Malta in 5 weeks, I am a better version of myself. I've built up more emotional resilience. So my biggest takeaway, I think somebody asked me that on a question, so I'll answer that as part of the question, but it was great. And I love powerlifting and I love competing, and that day was really mentally taxing for me. And following the competition, I was really angry on the Sunday. I was really angry at myself. I was really disappointed in myself. I have the highest expectations of myself, and I want to deliver. I want to be the best that I can be. And when I'm not, I take it quite hard. And it took me a couple of days to get over that. And on Monday, I found I was quite emotional on Monday. I had this expectation that I wanted to do all these amazing things. I wanted to squat 210. I wanted to bench 120. I didn't achieve any of them. So you feel like a sense of failure. I feel like I let John down. I feel like I let myself down. I let all of the people who are watching me down. And I know I haven't let anybody down. Like, it's just powerlifting. But in your head, you have all of those emotions that go through, and that's where I was. But yeah, the rest of the week was epic. Like, I've processed it now, or I'm putting it to bed now. This podcast was kind of like, I didn't want to reflect on the day anymore because I've done my reflecting, but I said I would, so here I am. What I want to go through now is I want to go through some of the questions that you guys kind of asked me. So yeah, I think this one's probably the first one. So Bobby asked like the pros and cons of competing equipped. The pros and cons. The pros are you get to lift more weight. The cons are there's probably a higher risk of not getting a total because you're lifting more weight. There's more variables. There's more things that can happen. And I guess that's it. But the buzz of lifting the big weights is incredible. Like, fair play to Holly. Like, Holly's coached by John as well, and she's epic. Like, she's a similar weight class to me, and she's like, she's just a queen. She lifts so much, and she's so what's the word? She's so humble and graceful with how she does things, and like, it's really admirable. She's the pro of equipped. I think the other pros and cons of competing in equipped is with equipped you can't do it on your own, so you need more than one person to be able to do it. Okay, what was your highest and lowest point during your comp prep? My highest point of my comp prep was the session where I squatted 210 and I benched 120. The lowest part of my prep would probably have been the frustration with my niggles and kind of feeling like I'm not moving forward, which is still a frustration now because I'm not totally healthy. Why did you decide to start competing equipped rather than raw? So I think I covered this in the last episode. John competes equipped and he was like, fancy having a go. About 3 or 4 years ago, so the guys who compete equipped, a few of my like powerlifting friends at the British were like, we've got some shirts, do you want to try one? And I did, and I really enjoyed it. It's just a different buzz. Like, it's a different buzz, it's a different challenge. We SBD 3 times, 4 times a week, and actually getting to do something different once a week is actually really exciting. Like, I cannot wait to get to training tomorrow and get back in the kit. It feels like redemption. So Ben asked, what stages do you have prepared for comp? So I think Ben's wanting to... let me answer another question that he's asked first. So what are the stages of being ready for your first powerlifting competition? There is no stages. You should just do it. Because as long as you're lifting, okay, that's a lie. So as long as you're lifting to competition standard, as in you are able to pause your bench press, you are able to squat to depth, you are able to safely deadlift, and you're able to do all of those things, just have a go. Like, there's nothing holding you back from having a go. Like, look at me. Like, my expectation for myself was I was going to total 45 kilos more than what I did. And it really hurt that I didn't. But I also totaled, like, my first competition, I think I totaled 337 kilos. This competition, I totaled 455, and it wasn't my best. So you're always going to get better. You're always going to have growth. And Ben's next question was, what stages do you have prepared for comp? So I think when you're competing, a lot of what you do is mental and emotional as well as physical. So in a normal training block, you will lift at like my clients lift with like anywhere between 3s and 7 to 10 repetitions. Whereas when you're peaking for a competition, the rep range comes down and you are lifting more weight, but you have to effectively manage that fatigue and ensure that you're peaking. So you're heading upwards ready for the competition. If you need to make weight, you also need to manage your weight to make sure that you're at the competition healthy and able to perform at the right weights. But yeah, I haven't read any of these questions before they've been asked, so bear with me a minute. So Emma asked me today, what is your best and worst thing about being an online coach? My best thing has to be the confidence shoot, which, watch this space, information coming soon, ready for the next one, and the powerlifting competitions. And seeing my clients flourish, like feeling so rewarded by what they are achieving and what they are doing. Like the confidence shoot was incredible. Like taking people who you've been working with for a year or only 12 weeks and watching them become this empowered, confident, strong version of themselves with this gorgeous physique and this gorgeous confidence. Like when you have happiness and you have confidence, guys, you glow differently. And watching my clients do that, the confidence shoot was just absolutely insane. And I cannot wait for the next one to be a part of that process and a part of that journey again. The other part of what I really love about my job is the wins that you don't expect. So when somebody comes to me and they say they have low confidence and they have a poor relationship with their partner and they're not intimate with their partner, or they're too afraid to go for a promotion, and then 6 months later they tell me that they're shagging their partner every day and they've suddenly got a new job, they are the key moments that I absolutely love, and coaching them through that. The worst part of my job, I'm going to be really honest with this one. I build really close relationships with my clients, and I genuinely want to build genuine connections with the people that I work with. So the worst part of my job is when a client's finished their journey and they move on. I'm really honest about my coaching program. Like, I hope that I've built a coaching program that my clients don't want to leave. But if they do want to leave it, I need to know that they have got the right skills, the right habits, the right lifestyle, and the education to be able to continue their journey on their own. I don't believe in a coaching program that has an 8-week or a 12-week expiry date, because when you actually work with people, you need to go through their life cycle. So what do I mean by life cycle? Like, you need to know how to do the habits and do the behaviors and do the do in winter. You need to know how to do it in summer. You need to know how to do it when your kid's off sick. You need to know how to do it when work's stressful. You need to know how to do it when you go on holiday. You need to know how to do it when life is easy. And working with people for 6 months plus allows me to go through their life cycle with them over the course of the year and test those habits to make sure that they are sustainable. And that's why I do not believe in an 8 or a 12-week coaching program. Sorry, I went off on a tangent there, didn't I? That was very passionate. Right, back to me questions. How do you build habits how do you build habits in the gym session way? So building habits in the gym is about turning up for yourself. Like, you have to build a routine. So if you're somebody who has, you're lucky enough that has a fixed diary, I would schedule that time into my day. So if you struggle to get to the gym and you struggle with motivation, one thing could be training with a friend. The other thing would be making an appointment with yourself. So putting a slot into your diary, so you have to show up for yourself and you have to be there, because if you don't show up for yourself, it's only you're letting down. Like, at the end of the day, your coach or whoever it's not that big a deal if you don't go to the gym, but actually the benefits of you going to the gym, educate yourself on those reasons, and then see the value in it. And when you start seeing results, you are going to want to go to the gym, because that's going to help you. So my biggest piece of advice is build a routine around going to the gym and don't overcommit yourself. So what's your opinion on if you're not sore and you're not working hard enough? So I know where this comes from. a friend of mine messaged me this morning based on the fact that she'd seen a coach say, if you're not sore the following day after your session, you haven't worked hard enough. This is absolute bullshit. If you are not sore, guys, you should not be sore after every single gym session. Like, when you have a proper structured training program with progressive overload in it, you're probably going to have a week 1, week 2 where you have a little bit of muscle soreness, a little bit of DOMS, as David's squatting on the floor behind me with horrific DOMS today. And over the course of time, your muscles build up a stimulus. So they get used to that load. So then you add a little bit more weight, or you add your progressive overload, a little bit more reps or whatever. When you've then added that stimulus in, they get used to that again. You shouldn't be having horrific DOMs after every single training session. And if you are, you're probably not working on your recovery or your protein to actually rebuild and repair the muscles in the way that they need to be built and repaired. Okay, so what's a life lesson you had to learn the hard way? I'm going to be I'm actually going to talk really openly about the business, and I don't normally talk about as openly as I do about these sorts of things. So a life lesson that I learned the hard way was I got given some advice to take upfront payments because it would make me a lot of money at a given time, and the consequence of me taking those upfront payments meant that it made the business a little bit unsustainable. So leading into a Christmas period, the advice was take lots and lots of upfront payments because you don't know, like, if you're going to get client drops, you don't know if you're going to get client retention. And I said at the time, I was like, this doesn't really feel right. And the lesson that I had to learn the hard way was, obviously I had that gut feeling about it. And when you take a lot of upfront payments, it means your reoccurring monthly payments are then less. So when you're going into a period of the year when everybody is kind of like struggling their skin, online coaching businesses aren't as busy in January, I had to take a massive hit financially, and it caused me a lot of anxiety. And I then made the same mistake again a few months later with another piece of advice, and I clicked on quite quickly. But again, because there was not that sustainability in the business, it gave me a lot of anxiety that come on behind it. So that's the one that comes up to the forefront of my mind that's practical. I guess the emotional side of one is my mouth. I often don't think before I speak, and I never have an ill intention, but sometimes if I would have potentially turned the brain on for a second before I speak, it would have had less impact on the person I've probably just offended. When was the last time you tried something new? Oh, I love this one, Bobby. So, following the competition, one of the biggest things I took away from the competition was my mental resilience and coping with stress. And I had a podcast with Dale maybe a few weeks ago, and we spoke about journaling. And it's advice I give clients all of the time and do not listen to. So on Sunday, Derek and I were chatting, and he said, you're really lucky, like you can create your life into whatever you want to create it into. And when we first met, you used to get up in the morning and you used to meditate, and you used to do some yoga, and then you used to start your day, and you've stopped doing that now. And you complain every morning that you're anxious because I get anxious about the amount of work I have to do that day. And I'm trying to calm my mind. I'm a very mentally busy person, and actually journaling in the last 3-4 days, I've journaled every morning, I've journaled every evening, and I've meditated through Calm, just a guided meditation, and my days are so much calmer. Like, I am less overwhelmed, I am less anxious, and I'm finding a little bit more peace. And that has been so powerful over the last 4 days. A bit of advice to Bobby, who asked this question, was when you journal, don't think too much into it. Like Monday morning, I could literally tell you what I wrote. I wrote that I wanted to be spend less time on my phone, and I wanted to be more present, and I wanted to have less anxiety in the morning. And then I reflected and to understand why that happens and wrote all those things down. And I just word vomited on a page. Share your favourite coming of ages story, the first time you went, shit, I'm an adult now. Oh my God, when you have to go to Tesco's, yeah, and you pack your food shopping. Oh no, I've got a better one. When you go to Tesco's, you have to pack your food shopping away, and you get to the checkout and you're like, how the fuck has my weekly food shop for me cost me £120 a week? That is an oh shit adult moment. David's looking at me. Yeah, I eat a lot. My oh shit moment, I'm an adult, was, I'm going to talk about my ex-partner. So when we broke up, I was really lucky. His love language was like acts of service, and he used to do a lot for us. So he used to do, like, I used to go to the gym in the evenings. I was going to the gym twice a day. I used to come back from the gym. My dinner would be on the table. On Saturday mornings, he used to do the whole clean of the house. My oh shit moment, I'm an adult, was the first time when we broke up and I had to clean the whole house for myself as a nearly 30-year-old adult. And I was like, fucking hell, this takes hours. Like, how do people do that? And then I hired a cleaner. Anyway, any advice for personal growth? Push yourself outside of your comfort zone. If you want to grow, you will not grow if you are standing still. Unfortunately, the most growth happens when you dip your toe out of your comfort zone and you push yourself to learn something new. And if you have a little bit of anxiety and you have a little bit of stress, that's okay. It's your body preparing for the challenge that it's about to take on. Okay. If you have a big day working out, should you increase your calories or stay the same with a bigger deficit? So this totally depends on what your goal is. Like, if your goal is fat loss and you're in a calorie deficit, then you could look at this as extra energy expelled is going to mean that you're in a bigger deficit for that week. However, if you've had a really big workout session and you feel particularly hungry and you feel like you need a little bit more food for your recovery, then have it. So there's no right or wrong answer for that one, guys. But if you're gonna slow down your calorie deficit if you eat a little bit more when you've created a bigger deficit, whereas you could have actually taken advantage of having that bigger deficit. Hope that makes sense. Okay. How do you stop your you deserve a treat mentality? So I actually, so that you deserve a treat is because of your emotional eating behavior. So you see food at the minute as a reward. So in terms of like rewarding yourself, food isn't a reward. Food is good. I literally lied then. So food isn't a reward. You've got high calorie food and you've got low calorie food. Food is not good or bad. So you would basically switch the narrative. If you see food as a treat and you see it as a reward, switch the narrative and start to educate yourself on the value of food and start to see food as a means to fuel yourself for a training session. Like, I can't personally relate to the food as a treat, but I have a lot of clients who do. So if you've had a long day and you think, oh, I really deserve this cake because I've had a really long day, like we've spoken about, like distract and delay, which is where you effectively think, well, if I want this cake, do I really need the cake? And actually you do something else to distract yourself until you get to that point in time. And if you still think that you would like to eat the cake, then you can have it. Food isn't a reward guide. Food literally has high calories and low calories. Okay. How do you break the downward spiral when you eat the wrong thing or blow out? So one bad meal doesn't mean an entire sabotage. One bad meal or a blowout does not mean something negative. You just need to get back on track for the next meal. If you throw that whole one meal out for the whole day, then you've sabotaged your day. And the reason that you've sabotaged your day is because you have a perfectionism mindset and an all or nothing mindset. So my biggest piece of advice to you for that would be work on the perfectionism mindset. Work on the all or nothing mindset. When you can get a handle on that, you're going to be able to take better control of your day. If something goes wrong in your day, just put your next best foot forward. Don't sabotage the whole thing, because one little thing doesn't create a big bad thing. But if you do lots of little bad things, they create a bad thing. Do you know what I mean? I think that might be all of my questions. Yeah. So yeah, that was all of my questions, guys. I hope I helped and I hope I added lots of value. I guess you guys want a weight update as well. So obviously on Monday morning, I was 73 kg after the weekend. And I am this morning, Thursday, when we recorded this, which was 4 days later, I was 71.1. So I've dropped nearly 2 kilos in 4 days. So hopefully by tomorrow I'll be in the 70s. And I am going to smash the 69 comp with less aggressive dieting and more successful trip in Malta. Thanks for watching.